This is Matador News, and these are today's headlines.
A very sad reminder.
President Trump speaks out against anti-Semitism at the African American Museum. Bao Bao the panda says goodbye to the National Zoo as she heads to China. Trade talks are in full swing for the second half of the NBA season as the deadline approaches.
Good afternoon and welcome to Matador News. I'm Sasha Gomez.
And I'm Isabel Ochoa.
One officer remains in stable condition following a shootout with a suspected gang member in Whittier yesterday that left an officer dead. Officers Keith Boyer and Patrick Hazel were responding to a traffic collision involving the shooter when he opened fire while being patted down. According to detectives, the shooter was recently paroled and is suspected of being involved in an earlier fatal shooting. Boyer was a 27-year-old veteran of the Whittier Police Department and is survived by several children. City officials held a public prayer vigil yesterday evening at the police department.
President Trump denounces anti-Semitism in the U.S. as threats towards the Jewish community and Jewish community centers continue.
The anti-Semitic threats targeting our Jewish community and community centers are horrible and are painful and a very sad reminder of the work that still must be done to root out hate and prejudice and evil.
The remarks came as President Trump was visiting the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. He was joined by daughter Ivanka Trump, advisor Omarosa Manigat, and Dr. Ben Carson. Stephen Goldstein, the executive director of Anne Frank Center for Mutual Respect, says Trump's comments are not enough and are too late.
Another wave of bomb threats are directed against Jewish centers across the country. All Jewish centers that received the threats, including one in San Diego, were evacuated and then reopened. In the last 2 months, nearly 70 threats have been issued in almost 30 states. An FBI spokesperson says threats have been made by what they are calling a robocall system. The FBI says some of these threats seem to be hoaxes. Investigations are still going on.
The Department of Homeland Security is releasing documents today explaining Trump's executive orders on deportation and border security. Immigration officials will now be directed to remove anyone convicted of any criminal offense. This affects immigrants who have been in the country for up to 2 years. This order is allowing agents to deport more people immediately. Homeland Security will begin the process of hiring 10,000 new immigration and custom agents.
President Trump chose Lieutenant General Herbert Raymond McMaster as his new national security advisor. Trump says McMaster is considered one of the military's most independent-minded officers.
Tremendous experience. I watched and read a lot over the last 2 days. He is highly respected by everybody in the military.
McMaster served several tours of duty in Germany, Southwest Asia, and Iraq. In the past, McMaster has not spent time at the Pentagon or in Washington. This role could be a challenge for him. General McMaster served as director of the Army Capabilities Integration Centers in Virginia since 2014.
Famine in South Sudan has left almost 5 million people in need of urgent help. The United Nations says people are already dying of hunger. The refugee crisis and collapsing economy has taken a toll in South Sudan since it gained its independence in 2011. The UN World Food Program and non-governmental organizations are sounding the alarm for assistance. Officials say if help is not given, South Sudan will run out of food supplies within the next 6 months.
More than 70 bodies have been recovered on the Mediterranean coast of Libya. Volunteers who responded say they believe the individuals drowned while trying to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. The Libyan Red Crescent says 74 bodies have been collected and more are expected to wash ashore. More than 180,000 people made the crossing last year, an increase of 17% from 2015. Witnesses say that a torn rubber boat that usually carries up to 120 people was found nearby.
National Eating Disorder Awareness Week is in full effect at CSUN. The university's JADE program is hosting an event in the campus Plaza del Sol to advocate about these eating disorders. Let's take it to the newsroom with Alaysia Navarro for more.
Going on now until 2 o'clock, JADE is having special workshops for students to promote positive body image. Samir Hamawe, peer education specialist, wants to let students who are struggling with their body image know they are not alone.
Students do struggle with body image and may at any time develop an eating disorder, so we just want to raise awareness and really promote and preach body acceptance regardless of size, shape, color, and really just let students know that they're seen and that we hear them.
60% of CSUN students know someone who struggles with an eating disorder or has body image issues, while 28% of students admit to having an eating disorder themselves. JADE peer educator Anna Benitez says education is important.
So the museum that we came up with is that there's scenarios. So we're going to be focusing on 3 different eating disorders: anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder. And each student that comes to our museum, they're going to be handed a piece of paper of a different scenario. And they're going to go through the different stations, and each station is based off one scenario. And when they go through it, they have to mark down what the behaviors are or symptoms are, and then they have to write down what the eating disorder they think it is. And then station 5 is like where all the answers are.
The events for National Eating Awareness Week continue until the end of tomorrow. A variety of workshops, guest speakers, and film screeners will be offered free for students. Now let's toss to Cammeron and Parrish for the latest in entertainment.
It's that time of year again for Hollywood's big-time actors and actresses to get spiffy for a night of glitz and glamour. The 89th Annual Academy Awards takes place this Sunday at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. La La Land, featuring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, is expected to take away the most wins. Other movies to get nominations include Hacksaw Ridge, Moonlight, Fences, Hidden Figures, and Manchester by the Sea. The Oscars will air at 4 o'clock this Sunday evening on ABC. Conservative writer Milo Yiannopoulos will no longer be allowed to speak at the Conservative Political Action Conference, and he has lost his book deal. This follows Yiannopoulos' remarks about sex between children and adults on 2 different podcast appearances. Yiannopoulos told CNN the videos were deceptively edited, and he thinks the pedophilia is vile and disgusting. American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Shalop took to Twitter to denounce Milo and say there is no disagreement among conservatives on the evils of sexual abuse of children. Yiannopoulos, who is openly gay, says he regrets using the word boys and claims he himself was a victim of child abuse. Let's go to Malcolm Finney for the latest health news.
Teen suicide rates are dropping, especially among gay teenagers and especially in states with gay marriage. Johns Hopkins researchers found a 7% decline in suicide rates among high school students in the 32 states that legalize same-sex marriage. About 1 in 3 lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth nationwide have reported attempting suicide within the last year, as opposed to 6% of heterosexual students. The study did not prove the correlation with the legal same-sex marriage and dropped suicide rates, but it did suggest an association. A Florida federal court rules that doctors can now ask patients about gun ownership. Under this law, doctors can ask about firearms if the questions are relevant to a patient's health or safety, or someone else's safety. Patients are still allowed to refuse to answer any questions. Circuit Judge William Pryor says the First Amendment must protect all doctors and patients. For the latest in business news, let's go back to Cammeron.
Verizon is buying Yahoo for $4.8 billion. That's $350 million less than originally expected. The price cut comes after Yahoo revealed 2 big security breaches that affected more than 1 billion users. Yahoo is facing lawsuits and a U.S. Senate investigation because of the breaches. As part of the deal, the 2 companies will split the cost of any potential legal liabilities. The deal is expected to be completed during this year's second quarter. The stock market indexes rallied to new highs. Walmart, Boeing, and Apple lifted the Dow Jones Industrial Average to a record 120 this morning. At last check, the Dow was up 0.53% at 1226. The Nasdaq was up 4% at 1226, and the street took a look at historical data and found that the market tends to do well following President's Day. Tech companies looking to recruit CSUN students are on campus today. The annual Techfest event is being held at the Student Union. Matador News reporter Adam Hajost is in the newsroom with the story.
Techfest is back for its 9th year helping students get jobs. The event is being held at the Northridge Center at the USU. The CSUN College of Engineering and Computer Science organizes the event. Representatives from across the state have come to CSUN looking for interns and full-time workers. We talked to organizer Sarah LeLong to find out how the event benefits the students.
Go and speak with recruiters face-to-face, and it's a networking experience as well as a job. It could lead to jobs and internships.
Mortgage company rep Nick Akl says the Techfest benefits are coming.
19 interns, of which we were able to convert, I believe, about 9 of them to actually full-time positions.
Techfest ends at 3 this afternoon, and the students from all majors are welcome. Now, let's go back to Malcolm for the latest in sports.
The Los Angeles Lakers have fired General Manager Mitch Kupchak and Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Jim Buss. The Lakers have also named Magic Johnson the new President of Basketball Operations. Magic was named as an advisor to team ownership last month. The move was executed by Laker co-owner Jeannie Buss. Buss says she took action to restore the Lakers to the heights that her father, the late Dr. Jerry Buss, expected of the team when he was running the Lakers. The Lakers are currently 1 game from last place in the Western Conference. NBA All-Star Weekend was filled with thrills and disappointments. It kicked off last Friday with the Celebrity Game and the Rising Stars Challenge. The World team beat the USA team 150 to 141 in the Rising Stars Challenge, led by 36 points and 11 assists by game MVP Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. The All-Star Game headlined Sunday evening. The Western All-Stars beat the Eastern All-Stars 192 to 182. Anthony Davis broke the record for most points scored in an All-Star game with 52 points, claiming the MVP award. All-Star Weekend ended with All-Star DeMarcus Cousins being traded to the New Orleans Pelicans shortly after the game. The NBA trade deadline is Thursday, and all the teams are rushing to make moves. The biggest trade so far has been the just mentioned DeMarcus Cousins to the Pelicans made shortly after All-Star game ended. With the deadline approaching, teams are either trying to stock up for the playoffs or rebuild for the future. The Boston Celtics are targeting big-name players like Jimmy Butler, Blake Griffin, and Andrew Bogut. The Minnesota Timberwolves are interested in trading for Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose played for Timberwolves coach Tom Thibodeau in Chicago from 2010 to 2015. The Timberwolves are trying to work a 3-team trade that sends Rose to Minnesota, Detroit Pistons point guard Reggie Jackson to New York, and Minnesota guard Ricky Rubio to Detroit. Now let's go back to Isabel for more news.
The National Zoo in Washington is closed until noon today while zookeepers say farewell to their panda cub. American-born panda Bao Bao is flying to China to join a breeding panda program. Bao Bao was born at the National Zoo 3 years ago. Cubs that are born abroad are sent to the Chinese breeding program before they turn 4 years old. 6,000 people visited the panda cub over the holiday weekend to say their goodbyes. Thank you for watching Matador News.
I'm Sasha Gomez.
I'm Isabel Ochoa.
I'm Cameron Parrish.
And I'm Malcolm Finney.